Hi, I'm Josue Rodriguez, and this is the Misfit Gospel. Good news for misfits. So what's a misfit? Misfits are the outliers and the geniuses, the pastors and the pagans, the stay-at-home crunchy moms and the ones who should have listened to their moms, and so many more in between. So whether or not you feel like you're in one of these groups or whether you are, we all would agree it's time for some good news. Let's go. I'm really excited about my guest today. I met him through mutual friends. Um, and yeah, so it's been a few years. I think it was like 2019.
That's a good question.
And no,
I don't even know what year it was.
No, because I had just started a job. It was 2019.
You had just moved here too, hadn't you? Are you?
Well, I moved here in 2016, but I didn't really know a lot of people. And so yeah. So this was outside of church. This was like the first time I hung out with people outside of church. That
Get out of here.
Like as far as having like peers.
So that was your first really social interaction. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because I'd already been a fan of projects that Joe was making, his music, and it'd been like 20 some years. And so I met him on accident in the mall, like walking past
met him in a store.
So then he invited me socially over. But so this is the audacity. I have the audacity to start a conversation when you don't know my guest. This is my man, Coach K. He goes by many names, but we'll stick with that one. Let's let you just fill in the gaps because they've already heard us start a conversation.
Coach K works, so that's how a lot of people know me. It's Coach K. But I'm curious. Let's go back.
All right.
To what you were just saying. You walked by him in the store.
Yeah.
You recognized him?
I did.
You saw his face and you're like, I know that guy.
Well, when you're a nerd like me and you've listened to, when I listen to music, I got to know what the person looks like. I got to know all the things. And so he was in Deep Space 5 and I listened to Deep Space 5 more. But in Deep Space 5, I always liked his lyrics better, probably because they were more sad. They kind of had this sad tone to them. And I liked hear his verses better. And so I was really aware. And then just previous to this, I started following him on social media, specifically Instagram. And so shout out Syntax, the terrific.
Did you know he lived here? Had you determined that already from Instagram?
From Instagram, because he showed a picture of his son wearing a Wade Hampton high school hat. And I was like, so I just, put in the comments, I was like, I said, Greenville, South Carolina? And he said, yeah. And he said, where do you live? And I said, Taylor's. And I think he said, me too. And I was like bugging out because his house is like 7 minutes from mine. So, but then I was briefly working at Vans in the mall for the holidays, and I was just walking in and he was walking out and he was wearing a suit, and I was like, I think I know who that is. But obviously I didn't know his real name at the time. And so I was like, Syntax? And I said it really loud, almost like a question. And he turned around and he smiled, and I was like, he walked over, he goes, how do you know me? And I was like, I know who you are. And it was really, really weird. But it was odd for me because I was trying not to like fanboy out, even though we're relatively the same age. I was like on the inside, kind of freaking out. And I was like, I'm thinking this is the only time I'm going to see this dude. So I'm like, hey, you want to do a selfie? He's like, sure. And so we did. And then he's like, here's my number. We should link up. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I went to work. And so I had my phone on silent, and he had texted me like 3 times. He's like, yeah, we should get together and I have some community and stuff like that. And then I texted him back later. I was like, I should probably know your real name first. I only know your rap name. And he was like, ha, my bad. And then, yeah, the first time we hung out was with you and Brandon were over.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
But prior to meeting him, he was already your preferred member of that group to listen to.
Yes. Yeah. Only I hadn't really heard his solo stuff. Like
you'd only heard the group stuff.
Well, I'd heard
Deep
it.
Space 5.
His first release, I kind of got wind of because of that website, Spirit of Hip Hop.
Yeah.
From the early 2000s, and that was the place to find all kinds of underground music, especially Christian music. And so everybody was talking about his album, Simple Moves or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I heard some of that, but then I got into like East Coast rhyme sayers and all that kind of like Aesop rock and all stuff like that. And then I kind of just focused on that for a while, that sound. And then I hadn't heard really any of his music until he released that that project, Mid-Cent Modern.
What?
Yeah.
So the stuff in between that you
that
missed.
It had any idea about any of those projects, and so so then I listened to that and I was like, this is amazing. And I remember going in to Jen, my wife, and she, the track he did with homies from Black Sheep and Tribe.
Yeah.
And I was like wigging out and I was like, Jen, you got to listen to this song. This is so awesome. And she's like, yeah. Right. And it was like, cause she knows me and I just kind of get excited about stuff. And then, a few months later, he's like part of our world or whatever. He comes the day Micah's born. So like I only had 2 friends come the day Micah was born. So when he was there on the day, he made it a point to come on the day of my only son. That meant a lot. But by that time we were friends.
Impactful though.
By that time we were friends. But yeah. But like back.
But just thinking about that. There's an artist I'm a big fan of, a musician, whoever it is, and they show up the day my son is born.
Yeah.
That's got to be wild for anybody.
That was cool. But also it was cool because he's very people oriented and he cares about people. Yeah. And it was like, it wasn't just like my friend, he was my wife's friend too. So that was really, really cool. But that's about our friend we have in common. But about you, how do you know him and what's the deal? Or why would you know him? Let's talk about you.
I've known him for years. We go back, this is back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go through the whole story, but we connected way, way back. And that's back when I was rhyming, before I was DJing. Like, I used to do my little corny raps and whatnot. But he and Manchild used to be in a group.
Okay.
Called The Pride.
Right.
Just the 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually let me on a song, rapping. So there's a recorded thing of me rapping on a song somewhere.
Did they release like it on a project?
I don't know. Oh. I don't know. My rap was horrible, so I hope they never did release it. And I got one of my other boys to go with, but they were nice enough to let us do it with them. It was. I hope it didn't get released, but I don't know. But we connected way, way back years ago, and we reconnected maybe 2006 or something like that.
Right.
Because I was booking shows. Because I went from DJing to promoting events, and I threw tons of events for years. And I was throwing an event, and I booked Listener. And I booked, because Listener was doing his tour of homes then.
Oh, yeah. I had him out to my home.
So we were doing, where were you living then?
I was living in Flint, Michigan.
Okay, Michigan. So I had him come do mine in South Carolina. And I booked Joe to come open or perform at that show. And I hadn't officially started DJing yet, but I had the equipment. And so what I would do when I was doing shows, I would spin records before shows and between sets of artists and whatnot. But I was just doing that to play music, not to be DJing, just to keep some stuff going. And Joe asked me like, hey, why don't you DJ for me? I was like, look, I'm not a DJ. I'm not a performer. I'm just playing music. He's like, oh, why don't you come on? I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And he went on his way. But he kept coming at me. He kept twisting my arms. I was like, I don't do that. I don't get in front of people. I'm a behind the scenes guy.
Yeah.
But he kept on. And eventually I did it. And It was great. I ended up falling in love with it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah,
you're pretty good at it.
I don't know about that, but we had a lot of fun. And I remember we actually did a thing in Minnesota. It was a whole weekend thing at some church up there. They had this thing, and it was on that trip that it really hit me. I was like, oh man. I was like, this is cool. I could do this. Like, they flew us up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Fly up here, driving me around places. I didn't have to pay for nothing up here. All I'm doing is slinging beats and scratching.
Yeah.
Like, I can do this.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, and it was cool. And so since then, yeah, we rocked, and we've done a bunch of shows all over the place. I want to do more shows with him. I want to get him back out there on the road, or at least do some events. Because
that's the thing. It's like me, because of like the sphere of hip hop, and then because of that, meeting all kinds of artists and stuff. I started writing raps, and then again, I never intended to be a rapper, but I'd write things down, like I could rhyme in my head. And let's, like, depending on the artist, if I'm listening to an artist, let's say for a while, after turning off the music, my mind will start rapping words. And in the pattern that I just listened to, my mind will start linking thoughts together in the same rhyme pattern that I was just listening to. And so I'd write it down. And then right before my 10th anniversary, I told Joe, I said, I've written something, and I don't want to be a rapper, but I need you to help me make this song because it makes sense for 10 years. So he said, yeah, you do it. And he said, just start sending me pieces, and I'll piece it together and make sure it flows. And I was like, okay. So I sent him like stanzas, and I just text him, and he'd say, yeah, that works. And then one night he texted me, he said, so when do you need to record this? I said, my anniversary is tomorrow. And he was like, well, you need to come over. And so it was like 11 o'clock at night. And I told Jen, I said, Jen, I got to go to Joe's house. And she's like, why? I was like, I don't know. He's real busy. He wants to hang out. And she's like, okay. So I recorded my first song in his kitchen.
So here we go again. You have an artist that you like, you've been a fan of.
Yeah.
And you're at their house.
Right.
And you're recording.
Yes.
They're recording you.
Yeah.
Was that?
It was awkward because he was coaching me. So he'd stop me in the middle. He goes, no. This is not a nursery rhyme. You're doing this way too sing-song. You got to do it like a rapper. I'm like, I've never done this before. I'm like, so I was like, you mean I got to get some angry eyebrows? He goes, I was like, and get all aggressive. He goes, I know you're not like that. He goes, but yeah, you have to do that.
Were you hearing that? You say you would listen to songs and you hear the rhyme pattern in your head, and you'd write what you wrote in that pattern. Yeah. When it came time to perform, were you still hearing those patterns, or had it completely shifted by then?
This one, I didn't listen to hip hop music when I wrote it. Oh. I was listening to Incubus. I was listening to alternative music because sometimes. So
there was no rhyme pattern.
No, so I think sometimes, I mean, it rhymed, but
there was no cadence. Style. There's no rapping cadence.
Right. So sometimes I find like rock and roll music more romantic to me. Depends, because just in that particular moment. So I just started writing based on what I was being inspired from this Incubus album, and then I just sent him off to him. He goes, yeah, that'll work. And then he just put them in order. And he changed the word here, changed the word there. He goes, I liked that line, but I took it out. And I was like, okay. He goes, are you all right with that? I'm like, yes. And he goes, I got this beat. It's a Sir Chamberlain beat. And I was going to use it, but I'll let you use it. And I was like, all right. And he goes, is that okay with you? I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
So he produced your song.
So he produced the song, and he said, I wrote it out, and you're just going to go. And I was like, okay. And so, I just kind of put the headphones on and pretended I knew what I was doing. And then when we were done, he goes, all right, good. That went a lot better than I thought it was going to go.
How many takes?
Like 3. Yeah.
And that was your first time?
That was my first time. So I've written a whole lot more stuff since then. And I think it's because I'm neurodivergent that I have a hard time focusing. And so I literally have like 10 songs written, and I've been trying to get him to do this project because I want him to do something that is not syntax. And because I want to record with him again.
Well, one, did
Yeah.
you enjoy that process, the whole recording process?
Yeah, it's
some
fun.
people love it, some people hate it.
Yeah, it's fun.
Now, when you say you want him to do something that's not syntax, what does that mean?
Well, because like on his album, The Last Unicorn, I think it's on that album. He talks about, he's complaining about his voice and basically he wanted to sound like the rappers he grew up listening to. And I try to talk to him. I was like, dude, you're you. I was like, I listen to you because you're you and what you say. And he's just like, yeah, but no. And I was like, no.
It's funny you say that because he and I've had many conversations on the road because I listened to what he's listened to when we were driving, what he liked. And I've told him he would not listen to himself. Like if he was another rapper and he was a fan and he heard his music, he wouldn't be listening to it.
Yeah.
Because his flow and his style is not what he listens to.
Exactly.
Not the rappers that he liked, I really like this.
Right, like, exactly.
But it's interesting how that works sometimes, how what comes out of us creatively is not necessarily the same thing that we absorb.
Right.
It's an interesting dynamic.
I think what we absorb is why it comes out of us that way. Because you can only be you. You can't be someone else. I can't be DMX. Even though if I listen to DMX, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Why he said that? I wouldn't say that. You know what I mean? So it's like, or Shad, right? I love Shad, but I could not write like him. He's one of the artists where if I listen to him, I can't keep up with. It's not so much his flow; it's how much wordplay he has. He connects so many thoughts together in a verse that I'm like breaking it down. I'm like, oh wow, I thought I knew what he just said, and I think he said something else too. And I think he said something else in there as well. And so I think honestly, being a Beastie Boys fan in the 90s, and I like to get to the point. I like to just get to the point and say what I'm going to say, get over with. But I'm finding the more I write, the more I'm trying to say things that have more meaning or multiple meanings, I think.
So,
but yeah.
So what do you want in syntax to sound like on the project you have in mind?
It's not so much that I want him to sound like something. I want him to let go of being a rapper. Well, there's just the concept of I'm a rapper. You know, I'm like.
So you want him to just be a pure artist.
Just be creative, like almost kind of like.
Just to express.
What is the thing you always wanted to do that you didn't think you could get away with because you were a rapper?
What do you want it to say that you feel like you couldn't say in there?
Exactly. So, because that's all I can do. I don't have any cloud and I don't have a catalog and I'm 47. So it's like, you know, I'm just going to make something and I don't care if I organize my brain enough. This podcast idea came to me in 22 and it's 2024. And that's just kind of how stuff works for me.
How'd you get this set up? How are you able to do this here? How did and the team you have?
Our setup here is at where I go to church, and I was talking to our pastor, and pretty much like this. I have ideas, and I talk to people about them, and then sometimes people like him, he's like, "All right, when do you want to do that?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Oh, we got creatives here. Let's do it."
Wait, so you just told your pastor, "Hey, I want to do a podcast," and he's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
You can do it here. Yeah. Let's go.
He goes, we got creatives here. We can make this happen. And I'm like, and I had just started going here. I was like, but I don't know anybody. I'm like,
how well did you know him?
I had already had like coffee with him a few times and stuff. Because really what I did was I was visiting the church because I had met Robert, who's on the camera now, at a skate park. And then we had coffee, and then I thought, well, we'll just roll over to his church and say, hey. And then I was like, I like this place. And so I met the pastor, and we had coffee a few times, and he was really challenging me on some stuff. And he goes, you know what? he said, we can meet as much as you want. He said, but at some point I'm going to have to say something to you that I can't say because I'm not your pastor. And I was like, okay. So me and Jen started praying about it and talking about it. And here we are. So he was like, we got creatives here. We can do that. And I was like, how are we going to, no one knows me here yet. And he goes, well, if you want something done, you talk to the pastor, and I'm the pastor. And so we had a couple of meetings, and here we are.
Just like that.
Just like that. So God just sends me people that'll help me do things. And then it's usually on me. It goes slowly because it's my fault. It's not really anybody else's fault. Usually when God sends someone to me that's ready to help me, they're just like, well, I'm like, yeah, I'll get there.
They're waiting on you. They're like, all right, we're ready. When you're ready to move, let's
Pretty much.
That's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like being with you here. I mean, how many conversations have we had that go forever? You know, and it's because God brings people to me with information I would have never found on my own. You know, I would have not found it. And sometimes it's focus, sometimes I don't see how things connect to what I'm doing. I'm very tunnel vision. And so, yeah, so basically you're interviewing me, but that's kind of, you're a people person and you're a person that brings people together. So
I get curious. I'm inquisitive by nature. Yeah. So I want to know things.
So I'm just like, you know, so you're kind of like an enigma to me. You give me like a little bit of information and I have to think about it. I'm like, wait a minute. In the 90s, you're rapping, why? You know, why? What was making you even want to rap at all in the early 90s?
Because I was a huge head, a huge hip hop head. If there was ever such thing as a hip hop head back then, that was me. And I was like, oh man. So I was writing raps in elementary school.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to stuff way, way back and I was writing my little rhymes and whatnot. So of course at a certain point, I wanted to be one of those guys. I wanted to rap too.
Okay.
So, okay. But eventually I evolved beyond that because I realized I felt like, I think it was in my later years, I realized there were so many rappers out there. So many good ones.
Yeah.
Great ones. There's so many people I'm listening to that I'm like, oh man, these guys are good. Mm-hmm. But most people hadn't heard of them.
Right.
Most people didn't know who they were.
Right.
I was like, wait a minute. People don't know this guy. I'm trying to get into the mix too. I'm nowhere near as good as this guy, nor this guy, nor this one over here. And I'm trying to put my name up there too and be in that same. What am I doing?
Right.
I can't even touch them. And people don't even know who they are.
Right.
It's a problem that people don't know them.
Yeah.
Well, then I switched more to let me do more to put their music out. Help people know other people. I started doing shows and throwing events. So instead of me trying to get in front of it, I'm going to put other people in front. So you're going to hear this guy now. You're going to hear this person. We're going to bring these shows and bring these artists to people. So I shifted gears. I didn't want to just become another one in the big pile anymore.
Sure.
Let me take pieces out of the pile and put them in front of people.
Right on.
That's what I want to do.
That's cool.
Then Joe turned me into a DJ.
Yeah. All right. So you decided that you wanted to put the spotlight on other people rather than you.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because there were so many people that people didn't know.
All right.
And should know. At least I felt.
Yeah.
And I felt there's so many artists that deserve to be heard.
Right.
And fans want to hear other stuff too.
Right.
And you know how many times I would do mixed genre shows. So I'd have hardcore bands and a hip hop act, underground hip hop act in there. And you know how many times I would hear people say to me, man, I didn't know there was rap like this. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. And I think that's a good thing because there was so much hip hop out there that people weren't hearing, that people didn't know, that they would appreciate because it wasn't like the stuff that they were hearing on the radio.
Right.
There was so much other stuff, guys, that had intelligent music, intelligent lyrics that were introspective, that were political, that were socially relevant, that were transcending what we know as a genre, the confines of what people traditionally talk about. And I felt there are so many other people that would appreciate a lot of that stuff that don't listen to hip hop, that don't listen to rap, that don't know anything about it. And then people that do listen to it, there's so much more that they would even appreciate if they heard. So my thing was, hey, let's do it.
This is kind of me doing that. I'm like, I'm bringing out my friends, but I know they're going to say something that no one else would have heard.
Joe needs to be here.
Well,
that Syntax the Terrific. For people that don't know, look him up. Syntax the Terrific.
Yeah.
It's a lot of music out there.
So it's
look
like,
up Deep Space 5. Deep Space 5.
It's funny because he's already come up. He came up with Yannick.
So he was here.
Yannick was here.
Oh, it means come up in conversation.
He came up in conversation.
I thought you
and
meant he
Brandon's
came
come up in conversation. And
neither one of them have
been on the show yet. I've already invited Brandon, but we couldn't get a day because he's a coffee roaster, and that's his primary important thing he does. So, but we'll figure that out. But it's funny because I want people on here that I know are going to say something important that it doesn't sound important. We accidentally say important things when we talk, and that's just what I like.
Say something important that doesn't sound important.
Right, because it's just our conversation. We're just talking about, just the concept of putting someone on because other people need to hear them. That's a really gracious and loving thing to do. But we don't think about it. We're just like, that's dope. Other people need to hear that. That's what's up. We talk like that, but really in our heart, we're just like, man, I love that. I want other people to feel good too. So I'm just like, I want other people to feel good. Yeah. So I want people to see your face, and I want people to hear about you. But why are you Coach K? I don't think that's
gonna make them feel good.
But why are you Coach K then?
I'll just say though, but also I feel like so many of those artists need to be heard.
Sure.
That's why they're there, to be heard, and a lot of them don't have the audience they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that still lends to what I said.
Yeah.
You feel a certain affection to the sound, let's say, and you're like, and you find that necessary. So you do what you can to elevate people who can't elevate themselves.
So we're doing some shows. I'm with Joe, and I don't have an official DJ name. And every time we perform, he says, "This is my DJ," and he says something different. He comes up with something crazy and was like, and it'll come up some real crazy name. It's like, yeah, this is my DJ, blah, 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 blah. Every performance, it would be different.
Mm-hmm.
And we were somewhere, and I had on, we were talking about that, and I had on one of my jackets. I'm a swim coach.
Okay.
Coach swim team for years, and I had on a shirt, one of my jackets, a coach jacket, and it said Coach Kendrick on it. And Sivion was sitting there. Remember, he was sitting down like on some stairs, and we were talking, and people look him up too. Sivion, Sivion. Great music. And we were talking about not have a DJ name, and he just looked at my shirt and said, "It's your Coach Kendrick." I said, "It's right down here." I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So went down and eventually just chopped it to Coach K, and
and
that's who I am. I mean, coaching, it was something I'm very passionate about. I was passionate about being on the pool deck. For me, it wasn't just something I did. It was who I am. Like that was me. That was my team. Those are my kids. Let's do it.
Right.
And then DJing, I became passionate about it too. So I just stuck with Coach K because that's who I was. That's me.
Well, how did you get into swimming though?
Oh man, I've been swimming since I was little, but I was working at a private school.
Okay.
And part of the curriculum was to take the kids to swim for PE, like during the winter, that we'd take them to the local YMCA, get them in the water. So we're doing swim lessons. I went there when I was a kid, did swim lessons at the same school or whatever. So now I'm working there. We had them in the water, and the instructor's doing this thing. And I got in the water with the instructor, and I'm helping them with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Unbeknownst to me, the aquatics director was watching me.
Okay.
And she saw me. She offered me a job and started doing water safety and a bunch of other stuff. And if it's in aquatics in the YMCA, I've done it, from arthritis classes, aqua exercise, you name it, whatever they do in there, I've done it.
Okay.
And so I ended up running the gamut from lifeguard and the whole 9 swim lessons, blah, 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 blah. Years later, I'm doing more. I'm back. I'm doing swim lessons. I'm doing a bunch of stuff. The swim team coach was watching me, unbeknownst to me.
Right.
Then he came up to me and offered me job coaching.
Okay.
And kind of like Joe with the DJ, and Joe came, I want you to DJ. Coach came up to me and was like, hey, why don't you come coach with me? I was like, nope, I'm not a coach. I don't do that. I teach people to swim. I'm an instructor. That's cool. I ain't gonna be no coach. Nah.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. Came back at me again. Mm-hmm. And he eventually came at me at 3 different occasions.
Yeah.
So eventually I was like, all right, I'll do it. I'll try it. But next season, when the next season starts.
Yeah.
And when the next season started, he came, so you're going to. So I went in and did it. Yeah. So the interesting part for me is DJing and coaching, both things I went into begrudgingly. Didn't have a desire to do either one of them. Didn't want to.
Right.
Didn't think I would be good at it. Didn't want to do it. Didn't want to be up in front of people performing. Didn't want to be coaching. And I didn't want to do all that stuff. But there are things I did and became passionate about both of them. And both of them became passions of mine. Mm-hmm. And did them for years.
Yeah.
And still in the order with both. I'm not directly coaching. Well, I did coach swim team this fall. And I'm still doing individual. But yeah, I'm still involved in both. And so I say it's very interesting because a lot of times the things that hit us, mm-hmm. we may not even have a clue of yet. Right. The things that become passions for us because we spend our lives, let me do this. I want to do this. And I'm going to try to do this and get this job and get this degree. And the things we're going after may not be our thing.
Right, exactly.
And we might not even know our thing yet. Right. And our thing may be something completely different than what we're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe something we have no interest in.
Right.
But they come to us when we're doing something. And I know because both of them, for me, came from people seeing me doing something I was already doing and mm-hmm. saying, hey, I want you to do this because mm-hmm. we see that you'll be good at this. They saw something I didn't see.
Right.
And then eventually I got in there and boom, it hit. I fell in love with both of them.
That's awesome.
So that's how I'm Coach K.
That's awesome. So
on the pool decks and on the decks.
Yeah. So you like to put people on, but then when people put you on, you kind of resist for a while, and then you're like, yeah, okay.
Yes.
So that kind of thing comes around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because often I have my own idea of I don't do that. It's not what I do. I kind of have that in my head.
Yeah.
But again, other people will see things in you or see abilities. And I know because I do the same thing. And as a coach, I do it. I can see them like, oh, yeah. There's how many kids I've told when you're going to be a butterflyer. You're going to be a distance champion. And they're like, ah! Then years later, that's what they because you see it.
Yeah. You
see things and you have an objective viewpoint. So we don't always see everything in ourselves. And sometimes it is other people that mm-hmm. sees that. So yeah, I do resist sometimes, but I like putting other people on. I like putting other people together. I like making things happen for other people. Or that, I guess it's kind of the coach in me. That it actually, I think it brought out a lot of me and what's in me.
Sure.
And it really became who I am. And it's still, I notice it in the way I operate in my personal life too. So I was like, oh. That is Coach K. Yeah.
I mean, that's been my experience with you, though. I mean, I've probably hung out with you more than Joe or Brandon.
That's interesting because you knew both of them prior to me.
Right, exactly. But they both have, I can't say they have good reasons, but it's probably the coach in you that makes yourself available to people. And it's like your gifting. It's not that no other people don't want to hang out, but when you're grown, you have families or whatever in jobs, sometimes it's hard to connect, but that's probably your gifting where I'm like, I need to get together. And you're like, tomorrow works. I'm like, whoa, I wasn't even thinking tomorrow, but how about the next day? Yeah, that works.
I'm flexible.
Flexible, yeah. So you're a coach, but then You take a break from coaching. What do you do when you take a break from coaching? What do you do when you don't have to chase kids around a pool deck and get them to listen to you?
Oh, I don't have to chase them around. None of that here when Coach K is on the deck. It's boom.
All right.
Let's go. Thankfully, I've had good kids on there. I don't have to do. It's not madness or chaos. But when I'm not, I'm DJing when I can. Mm-hmm. And when I can, I'm traveling.
Yeah.
I'm as much as I can. I'm
right.
gallivanting the globe and whenever I can. And if that's DJing, I travel DJing. Or if that's just pleasure travel, that. Or if I get to do some diving, oh my goodness. Love it. I love diving, man. It's one of the greatest things on this planet. I'm trying to get everybody to start scuba diving.
Deep under the water.
Yes. You know when you eat something very good and you're like, oh, this is good. You got to try this. That's how I'm about diving. I'm like, ooh, you got to try it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get everybody to do it because it's great.
Yeah. Pastor here does that.
Oh, yeah? The same guy?
Yeah. He's another person that I meet that has so many experiences doing things that I'm like, yeah, I'm out of my depth around these people. But I think when you know who you are. But he
welcomed you into it.
Huh?
But he welcomed you into it.
Yeah. I think when you have a good idea of who you are and the things you are into make you comfortable, you welcome people into your comfortability.
Yeah.
Your what do you call it? You welcome people into your home, right? You welcome people into your thoughts. You welcome people into your feelings. I think that that just comes with the realization that you shouldn't be anything but what you are. But it gets better with time. You don't really know that when you're a teenager, you're in your 20s.
But so many people don't really know what they are.
Right.
Most people, I say most people don't. Well, maybe not most, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't, and don't ever know. They've been there in the 40s, still don't know. 50s, still.
Well, I think
people are still trying to find that.
What you know about you is only, you're only allowed to know what you know about you when you're allowed to let go of what you think about you.
Correct.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are still caught up in the ideas of what they think they are and what they think they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing, and haven't really delved into themselves. They aren't scuba diving internally.
Right, exactly.
Into themselves.
Exactly.
So they don't know.
Right.
They're just on the surface doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So I went to college for X amount of years and I became this, and this is how I know myself. But they know, it's like, okay, with like men, you say, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Josue. Well, I'm, whoever. And then they immediately want to say, what do you do? And so sometimes I find myself saying, what do you mean? The thing I do for money? The thing that I don't really want to do? The thing that I wish I didn't have to do?
Or what do I do for
Or do you
fun?
want to know about the things that I love?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I guess I was asking about the money thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's too bad.
And I think that's just general superficial conversation for most people.
I think, I don't know. I mean,
small talk.
I don't know if women do that, but I know that men do that, because then when you meet someone who they're already imagining what it means for you to do that job. Right. And I think men are probably low key 13 their whole life, and they're always sizing each other up all the time. They're like, oh, you're a delivery person.
Yeah.
I'm a lawyer.
Adults are kids.
We can't be friends, or whatever, right? I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm being something that we measure ourselves by our tax bracket, and not when you're probably still in the same tax bracket.
Adults are kids with more experience. So you're right when you say men are just 13, because they're the same. I worked with kids, I worked with adults, and a lot of the behaviors I've seen, the same stuff I've seen the kids.
Right.
The same.
Right.
You have more years attached to it, but.
Right. I'm still realizing how much of a teenager I am in a way that I don't want to be. Like, I've come to make agreements of things I thought were true as a teenager that now I'm like, I am 47 years old. I do not agree with that thought. That is very immature.
But how many times have you thought about it critically?
It's still very new.
Right. And most people don't think about things critically. They just go with the feeling.
Right.
This feels this way, so bam.
And then sometimes I'm like, did a teenager just raise my children? Because my oldest is 23, and I'm like, and I realized how much information I gave her may have been extremely immature, as an adult.
Yeah.
Like she was like my little buddy for 10 years, and I basically gave her everything I liked. Which is funny because the day that I met Joe and I was on my way from work and I called her and I put her on speaker, I'm like, you're never going to know. Guess who I met today? She's like, who, Dad? And I'm like, Syntax the Terrific. And she starts screaming in the phone. She's like, that's not fair. She's like, I can't believe that happened. You're lying. And I'm like, no, it real happened.
So she had that awareness of him and who he was too, and his impact on him.
I was playing Deep Space 5 when she was in a car seat.
Oh, man. So she's like, oh, man.
So that's like part of her world. And so it's like, I can't believe that. And I'm like, yeah.
He can't believe, or often just seems not to realize how many fans he has.
No, probably not.
How many people around. And I'm often surprised, like traveling.
Right.
I'll be DJing somewhere because there are other people I'll DJ with and doing stuff. And it'll come up a conversation that I DJ'd for him. And some, what? Syntax? And I'm surprised. Like, yeah. Like, you guys know this? And there are people all over that know yes and are big into the music.
Right, exactly. Like, so I think that it's kind of like when you're too busy being you to realize how much of an impact you're having on someone else. And then you're surprised when you have one. Or like at the skate park, when we do something more like a colloquialism we call skate church. And basically we go to the skate park and bring a meal and hang out with kids and eat and whatever. And, we created a nonprofit out of it called Shelter. And basically sometimes they chop it up and talk about God. And
Shelter Skate Church.
Yeah.
Shelter Skate Church. Look it up.
And so, but for me, it's like, what are you doing? You're middle-aged and you don't skate like them. I'm like, I know, but my heroes created everything they do. And so my love for the culture of skateboarding transcends my age once they realize that I'm there because I love skateboarding, not because I want to get them to follow Jesus. Even though I do, I want Jesus to come through me and love them first.
So here's what we need to do, because you have this thing, you meet people and people come into your path, in your circle, just happens.
Yeah.
And you connect and people, okay, all right, what can I do for you? You need to connect, find the right person or people that could sponsor or make happen a Shelter Skate Church tour.
That could probably be very cool.
And so I DJ with you. We travel around. You can speak, DJ, and it needs to be an international tour. Because I found
it's like my mind says we're not big enough for that. It's that. See, that's the. But that's the
thing. Go back. Listener was touring Europe and the U.S. doing shows at people's houses.
Right. Well, when I met him, I think
about that.
I think he was my age. I might have been a little older than him.
And he did that in Europe and in the U.S.
Yeah.
More than once. So
listener. Yeah, the listener. But yes, like literally like that sound.
Skate parks everywhere, man. I told you about the skate spot I found in Ecuador. Great thing, skaters are a cool spot. Found a bunch of skaters in Puerto Rico, man. So, hey, look. Yeah. We need a tour doing Shelter Skate Church. Somebody would foot that. Somebody in the circles would be like, okay, yeah, we'll sponsor that. We'll be okay with it. We'll make that happen. Somebody,
There's probably a lot of
all right, somebody. Yeah. It's a good thing this guy's doing.
That would be fun. But it's like I am the idea guy and I'll do the work. But the organization part freaks me out. And it's not so much that I can't do it. It's more like, God, please send somebody else that I'll do the work if you tell me what to do. And it sounds really.
It's a call for somebody who wants to offer service here. You just.
It's more yeah, well, just my wife and I have talked about, well, like, we're the only ministry or nonprofit like us in our area, not anywhere, because there was this misunderstanding that someone thought I created the term skate church, which is, it's really, really old. It's like there's this awesome ministry in Portland, and it's just a colloquialism. Skaters came up with it, and so I like the term because I come and especially here in South Carolina in the Bible Belt, people think they know what church is, and I come with the idea that church comes from the Greek word ecclesia, and in Greece, ecclesia was philosophers and thinkers getting together and talking about their ideas, and just hashing it out with each other. And then Christians come along and they come into the ecclesia and they share the idea of Jesus and then make everybody think about it. And that's really what I do. I go into their ecclesia and I bring the idea of Jesus, and they have to think about it. And so sometimes it looks like the form of a Bible study. Sometimes it's just like, how you doing today? And then you find out a kid that was smoking weed and is skating. You find out he was homeschooled and his family is Christians, and he knows how to ride a unicycle, and he can make jewelry out of silver. You know what I mean? A marginalized community. You just show up. You got to pay your dues. Yes. It made people upset. We show up. Wow, what is church doing here at the skate park? I'm like, well, church isn't here. We are here.
A unicycle?
Yeah, the kid can ride a unicycle. Well, there was another guy at the skate park practicing his unicycling. He was like juggling. He's like a clown.
And did you do the unicycle on the quarter pipe?
No. That dude didn't get live like that. But it was just funny because this other dude was in his 20s. No, I think he's in his early 30s, and I had never seen him at the skate park before. And he was juggling, and I was like, that's cool. I got to talk to that guy. And he had like a little unicycle and a 7-foot unicycle. And I'm just talking to the other skaters, and I'm like, yo, did you see the dude on the unicycle? They're like, where? And then my man went over and talked to him, and I look over and the kid's on he's 19. He's on this 7-foot unicycle just going to town like nobody's business. And I was like, I didn't know you could ride a unicycle. He goes, yeah, I have one of these in my garage. And I was like, what? So you don't know who you're going to meet unless you just put yourself out there and be who you are. And so obviously, yeah, I want people to know about Jesus, and I'm not ashamed of it. But at first it's like we went hard with the Bible study part, and I realized that they get it. Why don't I just talk to people and hang out? Not because I was embarrassed or ashamed, but I realized that because of the way I think, the bringing up the word ecclesia and nerd information in a skate park, they don't go hand in hand. So how do I share that I'm just bringing my thought process to your world because I love you? Here, let's eat a meal together. Let's, do this or that, and be here for a few hours. And now, yesterday I was at the skate park, my family, and there weren't very many people yesterday. And this guy that I didn't know, he's like, hey, Osway, it's good to see you. And I'm like, what? Yeah, man, it's good to see you. And I feel bad that I didn't say it, but I was like, I don't know his name, but he knows my name, right? You know what I mean? So it's like when you're out there being who you are, doing what you can to help people, whether it's specifically to promote faith. I mean, yeah, I want to promote faith, but if I believe something, it should be always part of who I am anyway. But really, it's just when you're being authentic, people will pick up on that after a while. Not every middle-aged couple with their kids can show up to a skate park and build trust at all. It would just be weird. Oh, they might like you, but when you step out and say, I want to tell you about Jesus, that usually it's over. It's done deal. And for some people it was. And then some people, it's like, well, that's cool. I've never heard about that. And I'm like, yeah. And then after a year, people come to you on a side and be like, have a question or like, yo, can you pray for me for this? And I'm like, yeah. And that's it. That's loving people and taking care of people. And, I found out in churches, they want to know numbers. They want to know how many people prayed the prayer to become a Christian. And I'm like, there's been a couple. That's good. And then they're kind of like, depending on the way they think, they're like, oh, okay. They'll judge the how well we're doing it as how many people we got to pray a prayer, and that's not how this works.
I will say it's really about touching people and touching people's lives. And one of the truths of it is a lot of the people you touch the most, you may never know.
Exactly.
You may never know it, but there's somebody's life that will be changed by something you say, something you do, something they heard, something that they were exposed to.
Right.
That will impact them, but it hits them later sometime. You won't know it. No one else will know it.
No.
But you're making little small impacts just doing what you're doing.
We're planting seeds.
And I think that's what it's about.
And some seeds we're watering. And, I try not to worry about the harvesting. I mean, the Bible says that God harvests.
Yeah, I was going to say, let that happen.
That's not even my deal. That's not
that
my
may
problem.
be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, way off somewhere, might be in Belarus or whatever, and this person, something that happened at skate church or when, boom,
right,
or it's impacting things that they're doing, helping other people,
right,
and
exactly.
you won't ever know it,
exactly,
but they're doing their own ministry or something because of what you did. So
because of what we did, yeah. So, I think these conversations are fun because we have the audacity to accidentally say things on purpose. And it's good to have a conversation with you today. See, I just mumbled over that, and we ain't even going to edit that. It was really good to have a conversation with you. Thanks for coming out.
Well, thank you, man.
And I'm quite sure a lot of people got a lot out of this. So, audacity. So. Did you feel audacious today?
I guess.
Well, my name's Josue Rodriguez. This is the Audacity Podcast. Go out there and try to make a difference today. We'll talk to you next time.